It's one thing being able to identify where a group is at in its development cycles. It's another thing of knowing what to do with it. We've been going through the integrated model of group development in these last videos. And one thing that I'd want to give the viewer, is the ability to know when it's prudent to put certain managerial or leadership practices into place. A team that is perhaps no longer in a storming stage might not need help with working with conflicts. However, putting a heavy-handed, this is the way we're supposed to do it, to a group that is in stage 3 or 4 can be quite detrimental, pushing the group time development back and actually producing lower output. And applying the wrong tactic at the wrong time might actually make your team lose trust in you as a leader. So it's one thing to be able to see where your team is at and identify that, and this is a really useful skill. But then knowing what to do in these different stages, that's a different thing. Now it's all like on a scale and a spectrum. This is just a model, and you might have other strategies and tactics that works in certain stages. And if you have, please leave comments and suggestions of what to do in different stages, because that will help everyone. But I'm going to give a few examples of what you can do in certain stages to sort of help the team move forward as quickly as possible. And as usual, I'm going to go through the different stages, starting with the forming, then the storming, then the norming, and then the performing. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's start with the forming stage. Forming stage is usually quite easy. It's someone comes in new to the team, or you have an entirely new team set up. So what you want to be doing here is you want to be prepared. You want to have a way of working prepared for people, and you want to show them how they're supposed to work together. So having standard operating procedures in place, having a rough outline of what the architectural and some of the architectural choices, if you're a software development team, really helps. Showing people where you think their responsibilities should be. And this might change over time, but coming in and hitting the ground running with setups where it's easy to set up the computer, or they know where to dig in and actually deliver work early, really helps. One of my companies, I had a rule that within a week, I wanted a new developer to commit a bug fix to the product to sort of quickly deliver value and get them on board. And to be able to reach that goal, we needed to make sure that they could set up their computer really fast. They could learn about the architecture well enough to figure out how to solve the problem. They need to know about the product and how the problem affects the user or our customers, and then they can fix it, have it deployed to production, and actually deliver customer value all within 1 week. And we could do this because we had a lot of guides set up. We had a good onboarding experience. We had continuous delivery in place, so that once that bug fix was committed with tests, it can actually just roll out with the next release, which happened almost daily. So what you're doing in this stage of forming is that you're setting the examples of what the group will work like at a later stage. It might not exactly be what you want, but it will be a framework set in place. So be clear with the expectations that you have, be clear with how you want certain things to work, be especially clear with the quality levels of where you want the work to be. And this is also a stage where you set how psychologically safe the group will be and feel. If you're coming to this stage being humble and honest and actually talk about like things that are vulnerable and worries, you can actually show the team that in this group we expect to talk to each other if there are problems that or worries that are not helping us deliver our project goals. So what we want in the end is the group to be able to identify risks and mitigate them themselves in the later stages, but without you setting a precedence of saying, okay, I'm worried about quality, therefore I think we should work with tests in this way, or we need to have more tests in place for this and this. If you set these expectations in the forming part of the if you set these expectations in the forming part of the group, then it's easier to maintain them going forward. And this is really important because at this stage, you want to build that trust that you will need to handle the storming stage that's coming after this. And another fallacy or mistake that people usually does is they try to push through this forming stage as fast as possible. And that is good, but if you go too fast, then you haven't built that trust that you need for the problem solving. Because you want the team to not only trust you, but you also need to help them trust each other. You need to help show that you can trust the other person to deliver, and if you focus on your part of the problem, the other person will solve the problem on their end, and if they get stuck, they will ask for help. And you can set the precedence that it's allowed to ask for help, and they will get help either from you or for someone else in the team. And all of this the fundamentals of this is set during this forming stage. So it's not unimportant. You definitely want to go as fast as possible, but remember, this is where you set the trust going forward of how this team works. And all of this is super important because when you're coming into the storming stage, which is directly after forming, you will need to have built as much trust as possible so that the team can work with this capital of trust to resolve issues and work out ways of handling conflict in the team to move forward. Because in the storming stage, we will see people taking stances, forming subgroups, questioning leadership, questioning decisions that have been made. And this is all good because a lot of decisions needs to be questioned, but certain things need to also be set in place, and they need to understand why. So in the forming stage, they might not have asked why because they didn't dare to ask why things are done a certain way. And in the storming stage, you get more honest communication because they are more comfortable, they know what to do. And that honest communication is really, really important for you to create better group dynamics, create better ways of working, because it might not have been the best idea to do things a certain way. But having someone question it, then you need to analyze it as a group, figure out, okay, is this the best way and why are we doing this? But this also means that when there are new members coming into the team, people remember, why are we doing this? And remembering why we're doing things is really, really important. So this is something that you can teach in the storming phase as a way of resolving conflicts. What you also see is a lot of people will start arguing about roles and position. Oh, no, I'm the front-end developer, so I'm the only one that gets to say if how the UI is going to work or the UX is going to work. You're a designer. You don't know how these things are implemented. So you need to respect me when you need to trust me when I say, you can't really have 5 buttons here because it's going to be a bad UI because I'm a developer. I've written 5 of these interfaces before and they all suck, but you as a designer, you only draw these things. Remember, you need to listen to me. So there can be all of these different things going on in the group where you sort of need to guide them through and let them build a way of working where everyone feels that they're seen, heard, and especially that they feel they understand why they're doing things a certain way. and they feel that they are contributing, because this is one of the most important things in a group. When people are fighting over roles, it's because they want to contribute and they want to be appreciated for the contribution that they're bringing to the group. So it's really important for you here to sort of stay neutral as a leader. You don't need to get engaged or become angry. You need to be a trustworthy person that for everyone to come to, and you want to mediate intergroup conflicts. If two people have issues working together, talk to them individually and then in pairs to sort of figure out, hey, what's going on? How can we make sure that this dynamic is constructive instead of toxic or bad? So a good way here is also to work with structured debates. If you have people promoting certain ways of working that you're not currently doing, but they think it's a better way of working, let them debate that, let the team think it through and discuss it. And there are ways of having these different workshops that you can put in place, and you can have someone promote TDD or a certain templating engine or a certain framework in JavaScript or whatever the latest trend is. And that just having the workshop is a way for that person to be to feel heard and be appreciated, and that also helps your group learn and grow as a group together. And I mean, the more options the group has available, for them to succeed, the better. But let them resolve the conflict and sort of guide them in the right direction through dialogue, and hopefully that sets a precedent for the group to how to then resolve these kinds of questions or conflicts going forward. Another thing that is in the storming stage is it might be wise to say who has the final say in certain parts of the product or in the certain parts of the project. If you have a safety officer and you're working with sensitive information, or you're working with something that potentially could be lethal, maybe that person has a final say on the quality checks and he's allowed to block the entire project. Make that explicit if there's that kind of dynamic going on. Otherwise, it might be a consensus-based decision, and then you should be clear that we're trying to, as a group, to decide together. Could also be that there's no consensus decision making because you need to conform to rules or requirements that come in from a bigger picture of the company, and then you sort of need to explain why we need to follow the direction that the rest of the company is working, or the customer maybe has ordered the things to be in a certain way because it fits with their IT infrastructure. So something people usually forget about the storming phase is that it's usually the argumentative and outspoken people who are the loudest. But there might be people who are not as outspoken and who are introverts by heart or avoidant and really uncomfortable with conflict in your group. Most likely they're there, and it's really important to make sure that they feel heard and seen. You might need to talk to them outside of a group setting to sort of get their feel of the land and how they're checking in. You might need to build more trust for you to get honest answers from them. But please make sure that everyone, regardless if they're outspoken or not in the group, is seen and heard, because that will help your group in the long term perform better as you move into the later stages of the group dynamic. Okay, so something to avoid in this phase, the storming phase. There's a lot to say about this, and I'm not good at this, and people that I worked with will agree with it. I'm working on it. Please avoid becoming defensive in this stage, because if you as a leader come off as defensive and not listening, that will affect the amount of trust the team has in you. It's way better to be humble, listen to people's differentiating opinions, and try not really and try really, really hard not to get worked up, because if you get worked up, then you lose credibility and you lose trust quite quickly. So try to stay neutral, try to stay calm, try to stay humble, and make sure that you think things through without or like check yourself so that you don't get into a defensive state. That's the last one. Let's go into norming. Norming is when your group has figured out how all they fit together as puzzle pieces. They know how work needs to be done. They know why the work is done in a certain way. They can continuously deliver and produce customer value. So what we've done now is that we've established trust within the group. We know how to work. We've examined it through arguments and conflicts of who does what, how it's done, and we also trust each other to be outspoken or raise a hand if something is not working or not the way it's supposed to be. We also trust the group to sort of help each other out in this stage a little bit more. It's easier to ask someone for help in a group that is in the norming stage because either you know which one to ask for a certain problem, or you set the norm early in the group's development that it's all right to ask for help if you get stuck, and it's better that you finish things than you start new things because you were stuck on a certain thing. Yes, please make sure you finish things before you start something new. This is something I try to tell all my teams. But in the norming stage, we're actually in a phase where we're focusing more on delivering product or working on the project than we are in actually working with the group dynamics in the group and trying to figure out how everyone works together. So we have a way of working now, and we're actually producing more output. So in this stage, conflicts still happen, of course, but they are more productive. People trust each other, they know how to work. And you as a leader, you sort of form over to be more of a coach, trying to make sure that people are following the ways of working that we've put so much effort into the storming stage to establish in the group, and sort of guide people and like, oh, you can do it this way, or like help people either with conflict resolution or how to solve problems, or getting more resources to actually finish the project or time or something like that. So in this stage, you as a leader, you can sort of step back a little bit and let the team take more ownership. So you let the team take more ownership, and then you sort of come in where you see them maybe dropping the ball a little bit and just nudge the ball back to the player that is taking responsibility. So you really, really don't want to micromanage here. You want to see that you have capable people in your team delivering things without you actually going in, because the trust goes two ways. You can trust the team to deliver and therefore let them take ownership of the problem that you trust them to solve. So what you also should do in the norming stage is you should encourage people to hold each other accountable. If someone is annoyed with a certain behavior, someone showing up late for meetings, or if someone said, I will be done by Wednesday, and didn't communicate that, in fact, they would not be done by Wednesday, make sure the team holds each other accountable, because no one wants to let their teammate down. That in general, in good, well-behaving teams, it's easier to motivate people to not let their teammates down than to actually hit a certain deadline, because you work with your team, your group members every day, and you know them and you know how hard they work, and you don't want to be the weakest link making the project fail. It's a really, really powerful incentive to make sure that people are more efficient, not with like burning out. We don't want to stress them, but just taking accountability and ownership is what we're working with in this stage of the group development. And this is really, really important that because we're working with accountability and ownership, people need to be psychologically safe in the group. And this is essential throughout all the stages, so maybe it shouldn't be said. But as you're sort of transferring ownership over to different individuals in the team, that does not give them free rein to like belittle someone or be mean in the team. They still need to make sure, everyone in the group needs to make sure that it's a psychologically safe place for people to speak up when problems arise and to resolve and figure out those conflicts, because that's what you need in order for people to take accountability and ownership. Then they also need to be able to speak up if something's not working, or if they're not going to hit the deadline, or if some piece of software is not delivering what it's supposed to. Whatever it can be, they need to be able to express that and share, so that you can mitigate problems, take care of problems as they arise. Last but not least, in the norming stage, celebrate successes. Now, it's really, really important for you to break up, especially for long projects such as software development, break it up into sub-projects where you hit a target, you celebrate that you hit that target. Because celebrating together is a great way for people to build trust without having the conflict. It's appreciation, and it's making sure that you won together as a team, recognizing that you're working well together. It's all positive feedback back into the team, helping you make the team more efficient and making them feel motivated to work every day. All right, last but not least, the performing stage, the most lucrative stage of group dynamic, where you always want to be the unicorn of all group dynamics. Here we go. So what's happening in the performing stage? The performing stage is everyone knows what's expected of them and they know how to deliver on it. All the roles are clear. They know who makes what decisions. They know how to make decisions together. And you as a leader can be more hands-off, because the team are taking their ownership, they're taking accountability, they are communicating how they want things to be done and how they're solving things so that things can be identified as a group. And this is where you want your team to be all the time. And staying here will require work from you as a leader to make sure that the team stays here as long as possible. And if they fall back, identify why, identify what changed. So maybe someone quit, maybe there's a new person coming into the team, changing out the role dynamics. And you as a leader need to manage that and make sure that the team can continue working in this high performing stage where we want them to be all the time. So what you want here is you want to support your team. You don't want to interfere. You want to support your team. You can communicate with them, see what they need to be efficient, identify bottlenecks, and try to make sure that they have the answers to all the questions you need, they have the resources available, but you don't want to go in and micromanage. You want the team to be accountable and take ownership, and you want them to solve the problems. That way you can let this team work and you can focus on other things or keeping the team being focused. But don't disrupt them. The whole point is, in Swedish, I tried to say it, man ska kratta för att lyckas. So you can prepare the playing field for them to play on, but they're the ones playing on the playing field. You just make sure that the grass is even, easy to run on, and they know that where they're going, they know the directions, you're supporting them, and that's it. But keep a pulse on the morale. So if you're working in a highly performing team and you do that over time, it's easy to lose motivation. You might burn out because it's tiring to perform all the time. What we want to make sure is that people are doing a marathon. They're working at a pace that they can sustain over a larger amount of time. We don't want them to burn out within 5-6 months. And then all of a sudden we have to rehire someone or take care of someone who's on sick leave. That can really, really mess up your group dynamics. Then you're no longer in team 4. You might be pushed back all the way to stage 2 storming situation, because all of a sudden the team is questioning if we work hard for this company, and we might get sick because we're being worked too hard. So making sure that the team is working as efficiently as possible, at the highest output they can, but still maintaining work-life balances and making sure that they rest and recuperate so they don't lose energy or lose morale. Because a highly motivated person is contagious. So if people start losing motivation, the negative motivation is also contagious. So working with highly motivated people is contagious, but you also at this stage know your teammates well enough so that if someone stops working or stops being motivated, that is noticeable. And that is also contagious, because why should you work hard if the other guy who you're dependent on is not working hard? So it's important here for you as a leader to make sure that people are feeling motivated, they're getting enough rest, they're not burning out, and it still needs to be fun. If you want to have a team, especially of knowledge workers, produce at maximum capacity, part of it is making sure that it's fun to work, or they feel a purpose of their work and they feel that they're appreciated and that they're actually going somewhere with that. Whatever your team needs from a motivational perspective, and it's sort of your job as a leader to know what motivates your team on an individual level and on a group level. And knowing this is a really helpful tool in this stage. The last thing that you should really do as a team member here, or as a team leader here, and I already mentioned this, is you need to be prepared for disruptions. If you sort of want to look ahead and see if something's going to disrupt how this team is working, because they're working well now, they're a well-oiled machine, you don't want to disrupt that. And your job as a leader is to make sure that that pace or that efficiency level that they're holding is sustained. And one of it is, of course, removing obstacles and all of that. But the other is also having contingency plans. What if someone quits? What if someone goes on parental leave? What if someone becomes sick? You need to have plans in place for that. What if we need to scale up an entire team? We need to split the team in two. How are you supposed to do that? Luckily, because you're in this stage giving so much ownership and accountability to the team themselves, you can take a step back and instead focus on, okay, these are the contingency plans. If this happens, I can do that. If that happens, can that. So I highly recommend sit down for 15 minutes, write down what could possibly happen to disrupt the team right now. And if that happens, what should we do as a team to quickly get them back to the performing stage that we are now successfully in? All right, that's all of the 4 stages and things that you as a leader can do in the different stages of the group development life cycle according to the integrated model of group development. And I hope you liked this. If you did, please share, subscribe, all of that. My name is Martin Nilsson. I'm a serial startup CTO with over 20 years of experience of building software products and software teams. And I do this because I think it's really important for us to, as an industry, work better together and create high quality software, because that's what our customers deserve. So again, subscribe. See you in the next one.